Okay, this is part two on this again, and if you haven't seen part one, you go to the very end of this and click up in your top left-hand corner, and it'll take you back to part one. You can see all of that. I really thought, of course, as I do most of the times, I can fit that all perfectly inside a 145-minute video, and then I don't think of the fact that I don't shut up in the in-between of it. And I was literally probably 15-20 seconds away from ending that and going on to a second part and taking it further. But instead, we'll just end this off as we finish off this part of it, and we'll go into another one at another time. We'll let you digest upon this. Where we just talked about 666. In fact, if you've been watching my videos, I think we've gone through 5 of them now. And there is a sixth, ha ha ha, that goes with it. But you know, that comes from the Bible, where here's the wisdom, let hath understanding, count the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man, 603 score and 6, 666. And how that hooks up to mankind and the size and the shape of everything in the world. And it's another one of those special numbers that are derived off sacred geometry. So, John Mitchell and Christine Rohn in 1991 in their 12 Tribe Nations and the Science of Enchanting the Landscape, talking about the Bible and biblical people, said that the legend of the Grail is the Celtic version, their aspect of the exact same tale, with particular application to Britain, of a universal theme concerning something which has vanished and must be found or invoked again for the redemption of life on earth. In fact, Arthur was the land, and the land was Arthur, and the way things went, and all of those things. And a lot of people had this idea, oh, God got mad, and because you couldn't figure out what the hell happened. And now we know that sometimes on the other side of the earth, a volcano exploded, and you didn't know nothing about it, but days later everything turned gray and blah, blah, blah. You had bad crops. There was all kinds of little weather events that went on, or droughts and so on. And you may have blamed it on funny things, but we know now how that actually works. And you can still try to say that it's God's hand and he's sitting right up there in the clouds and kind of pissed off and playing with us like chess pieces if you want. But in reality, there's all of this going on, and we're on this big blue marble floating through space at 666,000 miles an hour. That's the Earth's orbital velocity. And the redemption we're trying to do is get things back to its golden age and fix everything up right, but that becomes impossible in the modern day whenever all the encroaching of third worlders and all the other things that happen. It can't work out to where they knew the four corners of the earth and who lived there and who was pushed beyond that point and wasn't there at that time. Those days are gone. They sailed away. And about now, we should be sailing away in a cosmic sea in something much different. And that leads us back to our maritime sea and the heavens that I was talking about that started off the first point of this. So let's go again with this 108 here and talk about solar distance, which is about 93 million miles. And people know that, right? But that's 864,000 miles is the solar diameter. And 108 becomes a key to that. Given the dimensions are done in miles, not kilometers. So there's something sacred about that mile and always has been, as long as we can find in history. So losing that, we would lose something, as Randall says, quite profound and connects us as it used to, back like elves in the elder days and nature and everything that goes along with it. In fact, that's where 432 comes in at in music versus 440, which is not quite tuned up. The lunar distance, again, 108 is a lunar number, but if we say it's 23,280 miles, roughly, and the lunar diameter is 2160, well, 1080 is its radius versus diameter to it. And so given these dimensions, here's a strange correlation, see if you can catch it. The solar distance divided by the solar diameter is equal to the lunar distance divided by the lunar diameter based on 108. What the hell? That's got nothing to do with hell. It's the fingerprints of God. I'll give you a minute to catch that. Just the size of the, well, what's the deal? Why the eclipses are just perfect? Well, it's 400 times larger, but 400 times farther away. And due to our retrospective in size, like holding your fingers out and going farther and out, and with your hand bringing it in the size of the moon, normally it'd be about like that. The moon ain't this big blown up. And how big is that? Times 400 times, right? You get this exact same ratio. So it just keeps happening. There's a lot more to this. I warn you, I'm going to show you again that there's even more to this. But so David Williams, Earth Fact Sheet given out by NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. Here's wisdom, let him have understanding. Count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. 603 score and 6, Revelations 13:18. Also talks about there is the measurement of a man in the same portion of the Bible, and it says it is that of the angel, which makes another strange correlation. I'll get into that in my next video about this. So we're moving along at 29.78 kilometers per second. No, it's 18.5 miles a second. So it's easier number, and that's what we do. And then if you take that times 60, that equals 1110 miles a minute. And so you have to take 1110 miles per minute times 60, and that ends up being miles per hour. So seconds, minutes, hours, based on the 60. Here we go again. And that ends up being 66,600 miles an hour. That's Earth's orbital velocity. Now you can check NASA on it if you want to. So what are you meaning to tell me? Yeah, those Greeks were incredible. They had figured it out. In fact, like I was talking about before, the reason that you always wonder how the Greeks and Romans just flopped their beliefs for something that was supposedly these shepherd people coming out of the Middle East. And I've been trying to show you for years now, it didn't work that way. In fact, the earliest Bibles we've got are all about the Greeks and got their hands up into it, and prose and special sayings and all kinds of stuff that go up with other religions and hook it all together as one. In fact, tales of these planets are written into tales of things like Noah and his children and so on, which are exactly like Uranus, the Titan, and his children. And which one came out the end of it? No, it's the storm god and everything. Yeah, that's it. And Baal and Zeus, and that's the, yeah, that's, yeah, okay, well that's this guy right here. And it's amazing. Here he's talking about Graham Hancock, but Graham Hancock said about Randall Carlson, he's one of these guys who is just so far ahead of his time that nobody saw it. Nobody realized that he was onto. Nobody, now everybody understands that the Earth was hit by a comet, Graham Hancock. Well, Graham was on top of this too. In fact, I've been on top of this too for years. And that something big happened, and that's what it was. The only thing that really excited me up and got me more and more is, well, people are starting to actually realize, yeah, because when I talked about it at first, even just years ago in my videos, if you've been paying attention, nobody was really condoning it, and everybody was they were fear-mongering, and they were this, they were that, and the other. But let them think that they could make some money off of it and think that, oh, woo-woo, give me money. And they'll get right on top of it as quick as, oh, global fart cow. Not that I disbelieve in any of their ideas and stuff, but we're fixing the ozone hole with aerosols, and there were some of these things that we agreed upon and we're getting on top of, but you look at what some nations are still putting out, and they want to turn around and choke us to where we can't even do anything at all, while they sit around just farting cow fart in the wind. In comparison, Well, we can't tell them what to do. No, we don't want to end up with that NWO kind of bullshit trying to go on either. So, what do we do about it? Well, we do what we can, but if you think that you could just do something about it, even though you took people's billions of dollars, that's a joke. Let's continue. So, other ones coming up, Anomalies of Egypt. I've got another video coming up about that, and ironically, here we end with a picture of that. This is the Aswan obelisk. It was carved out, and it's got underpinning under the bottom of it. If you look at it, it's slowly getting larger and larger, kind of tapered right until the very top of it here, where it has a bin type stone on top of it. And you look at the gigantic size of this, and really, well, kind of this end of it, which is bigger than there as it tapers. If you look at that, that's probably about the size of those Baalbek stones or close to it. This thing is 1,200 tons. What's that? Well, it's 2.4 million pounds. Well, how much would they have to leverage that just to even get it to stand up? Much less pick it up out of there and get it out of there. It's 137 foot tall. And they say, well, it dates to this, that, and the other, and it's 2000 BC. And you're like, wow. Then over here, they've got this thing set up where they've got these little round stones and a couple of these rocks, and people have been beating on this little rock when they come to visit this place. It's, well, easily 1950 and before, easily. In fact, pretty much from whenever. And they haven't even made a dent in the rock by beating onto it. But they can't explain how they could get it this flat and sharp cornered edges and things, and the way it's scalloped out from above under it. And you're all supposed to have this thing dug out in a short period of time. And I go, I don't know how badass these people were with a rock, but you couldn't get me to believe. No. Now there's something else going on here, and we need to figure it. And it would really be convenient if you would stop with the bullshit and say, maybe there's something else going on. Like, even the first people that first started studying this said, no, there's something else going on, and they had drills and things going on that's, what the hell's going on, rather than going, oh, that's a conspiracy. No, that's, it starts to get to be a conspiracy that you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to refer to it, and how things laid out and happened. And any of that crazy talk from pre-dynastic about how it goes back another 10,000 years and then farther, oh, that's just crazy talk. But all of this we got figured out pretty much. Well, and then they'll put that well on it, like, well, we're not quite sure, but we're no, listen. There are some things those people knew before you're willing to give credit for people knowing this type of thing. Like right there in those first dynasties, like fourth dynasty, whenever they built that Great Pyramid and things going on, look up Himwenu. He's the architect of the Great Pyramid. Looks like my friend Greg here, the German dude. That's what they look like. They have little crystal blue eyes. Look up fourth dynasty. Look up blue-eyed Egyptians. Just go to DuckDuckGo, images. Yeah. So, but what did they know at that time? Well, right at the time where we thought people were just figuring out farming, and no, that's not a reality either. See, because we figured out a long time ago that having farming makes sure that your face ends up slowly going away and is non-prognostic anymore, and that works with the way things all worked out. So even during my lifetime, it went from 3,500 BC to 5,500 to 7,000 to Göbekli Tepe 10,000. They were still nomadic, but they were able to. Well, hold on, that doesn't fit your hunter-gatherer explanation. So now you're gonna have to rewrite all that. Maybe we ought to just look at what's facing us and then go with that. For some of those tepes right over there near Göbekli Tepe, and including Karahan Tepe, seem to be dating a little older than that, and it can go back farther and farther. And that one that I showed you associated with beads and things. What I didn't mention, well, all those badass beads they had and so on, is that on their first inspection of that thing, they were trying to go with that 3400 BC dating. Just right, yep, that's. And then and then they took somebody and put a good team onto it and got some charcoal, and they went, what? And they went, no, this is not even at the far depth of it, so there's more going on here. What? Here's some more beads. What? Here's some more, oh, here's some more charcoal. What? Yeah. How about a concrete floor dating back about 10,000 years ago? Yeah, and it's still there. I mean, it's still held together, like as good as you'd think somebody poured your driveway or something. You'd hope your driveway lasts that long. Anyhow, we're going to get on. Just thought I'd share that with you. And another look at sacred geometry and its connections that I don't feel like I probably put enough emphasis on at certain points of this and about certain topics. In fact, a couple of those were left out. And of course, we went into monastery and how astrotheology hooks up to even the names of the people that you're associating with church and so on. And you know what? Yeah, you probably never thought of that aspect either. Peace.